Hi, guys. Thank you, everyone. Again, we're going to tone it down a little bit. I'm going to talk about something that I don't love talking about. I don't think anyone loves talking about, but I think it's super important to talk about it. And it's suicide. Because there's so much loneliness, right? So much darkness, so much pain. And yet this year, 800,000 people end up ending their own lives. That is 4 times as many as those who will die in war. It's more than those who will die of homicide. It's also more than those who will die of serious diseases such as breast cancer or HIV or malaria. In fact, in this country, those who have died of suicide is the second leading cause of death between 10 and 34, only preceded by accidents. I'm 35 now. I'm still alive. So I thought it was a good moment to share some of my insights with you. Now, what I just shared with you means that you are more at risk of yourself than you are of others. And that's quite empowering, but it's also pretty terrifying. And I know this from an intimate perspective. I come from 2 generations of suicide. It was in 1961 when my grandmother at a young age ended up taking her own life. In August 2010, my father, her son, followed in her footsteps. And now you may look at me and think this white woman born in Amsterdam, so privileged. Process it, get on with it. And you're so right. I am so incredibly privileged. Almost never in my life have I been at physical risk. I wasn't born in a war situation. I've never been physically abused. I've not been discriminated against on the basis of my skin. I've never even had to worry about food on the table or a roof over my head. And yet what I didn't realize was that this didn't mean that I was safe. I was at risk of myself. And at age 11, I saw my first therapist. Inspired or not by that experience and informed by my nature and my nurture, I spent the next 2 decades convinced that a certain scenario was inevitable. It was just a matter of time. And then when I approached 30, I knew that a shift had to happen. My own suicidal thoughts had become too dominant for me to ignore. So I saw more therapists and psychiatrists and tried different SSRIs or antidepressants. And they helped to a certain extent. It numbed the pain. It was manageable. By no means did it shift my reality, or did I get a new outlook on life, or did I feel a lot of joy in my life, but I coped. And then my nieces were born, Zia and Ruby. They're my twin sisters, magical creatures. They're pretty perfect. And that unleashed something new in me. A second shift had to happen. I had this responsibility to crack that code and to break the cycle. And if my suffering was self-inflicted, then I would have to go within to find that key. My first profound experience with meditation was at the invitation of a friend. It was at a sound ceremony, and something which I had tried to avoid at all costs had to happen. I was with my thoughts for hours at end. And I got some big realizations then. The first one being that it was just me in there. It was just me in there, and I could make it nicer and cozier and warmer and more joyful and lighter. And the second realization was that it was still me in there. Me who as a child was joyful and loved to play with my sisters and with fluffy animals, and who was so curious about what was out there and read the extra books and went the extra mile in the gym and ended up on the podium with the big girls. I was so powerful. I just forgotten it. And since that moment, meditation has been key in keeping me in that sweet spot, in reminding me of who I am, in keeping me close to myself, and through that, keep myself close to others. It's given me a beautiful community, a safe space to be vulnerable, to be human. Most of all, meditation has given me back a future I thought wasn't mine to keep. Now, since my beginning of my talk, 10 more people will have ended their own lives. That's one every 40 seconds. And I believe in the power of meditation to help turn that tide. I believe in the power of you to turn that tide. I believe in us. Thank you.